Fasten your seatbelts as we take you on a roller coaster ride through 3 days of hard rock and heavy metal heaven at the Foundations Forum in LA.
3,998, 3,999, 4,000. You got all the registration bags.
Ozzy, Priest, Exodus, Pantera, and more in this tempting taster for our 2 full-length specials.
The Foundations Forum is the only all hard rock heavy metal convention that exists. We are totally dedicated to hard rock and heavy metal. We've got the best bands that are in the industry, best established bands, new baby bands, signed bands, and the up-and-coming unsigned acts performing here this weekend for 3 days.
3 days of kick-ass headbanging heavy metal.
We got exhibition rooms going on. We have 50 exhibitors up there showing their wares, record companies. We've got magazines giving things away. There's been more exchanging of tapes here at the convention than I think probably at heavy metal than anywhere else.
What else we got? Oh, Judas Priest.
I seen this guy last year at the convention, man. How you doing, man? Let's go have a beer. Come on.
Cassette from Every Mother's Nightmare, and a Megadeth.
Hey, shut up.
See ya. I'm out of here.
As a heavy metal artist, you have a tendency to feel kind of isolated and kind of a minority, and this is a chance to really kind of see who's all behind the scenes and meet lots of people who are involved in the same field.
I'm Jen. I'm in a band called the Genitortures from Orlando, Florida. We're a band that pierces cocks on stage.
Science has not, nor will it ever determine that music causes social unrest or incites self-destruction. It's my belief that music is more important to people than any other form of communication. Music will always be the most powerful form of entertainment available to the human mind and spirit.
I'm Vinnie Paul from Pantera, Skin Basher. Having a good time, been doing this for a long time. It's the only thing I'm planning on doing. Love it.
Foundation is just growing and growing and growing, and I just think its name says it all. It's the foundation of everything that we do.
You can get a little business done, but I didn't come here for business personally. I came here to hang out, but yeah, something gets done.
Is there any virtue to the argument that rock music can cause a person to blow their head off?
No, not really. I don't think. I think it's a bunch of people that got nothing else better to do, I don't suppose. I mean, I never ever wrote a song with the intentions of harming anybody. Because first of all, it'd be a very bad career move, because if people shot themselves after listening to my record, there wouldn't be a follow-up, you know.
Anybody who's ever witnessed the freight train called Exodus live knows that, I mean, you can't stop that train to pick up passengers, you know.
It's going to be a real important year for heavy metal this year, and this heavy metal convention is a good way to just like launch it. And that's what the convention's really about.
What's happening? It's the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live, episode 315. Good Lord. Got a good feeling about today's show. We have an old friend on. This is going to be great. I can guarantee it. Rainy day chat away. Absolutely. What's up, Ray? How's things in Connecticut? Chris Hoffman, what do you say? Good to see you, buddy. Joe Frank, Robert Hogg in Scotland. You know what? We got like some Scotland weather here today in New York. You know, that kind. What's up, Dominic? How's Brooklyn, man? How's things in Brooklyn? You know, but yeah, good to see everybody. Happy we're going to spend some time together. Got a good feeling about today's show. Got an old friend on. That said, hope everything else is great, is even better than great. Let's get down to it. What is happening in the room of supplies?
In the supply room, it's cold and wet. Here we are in Scottish weather for sure. Oh, that intro was great. My God, so many faces in there. That was
yeah, it's great.
And you know what? I was actually at one of the Jenna Torturer shows where she pierced one of the bartenders' penises on stage.
Well, I've never saw the Jenna Torturers, or that I recall. What was it like? Did the call go out into the audience like, who wants their penis?
I think so.
Yeah.
At the Roxy Music Hall. In fact, we might have actually showed the picture on the show. They pulled one of the bar backs up and she pierced his dick on the stage.
Is that right, Dom? Did that happen at Lemoore also?
Probably at all the shows.
Who's got a penis out there? Looking for a penis.
Raise your hands.
All those in possession of a
God.
penis, raise your hand. You know? God.
Actually, Chucky Lenahan was in that band for a while.
Yeah, Chuck Linehan was in the Jenna Torches for a couple years. Yeah.
Oh,
you know it's interesting, and we're going to talk to our guest when he comes on. Looking at that clip, everyone is so young and vibrant. You know,
I was going to say
the vibrancy of everyone. Oh, so Dom says, "Oh, definitely Lemoore's. It was quite a sight." You know. Did she do the piercing? Like
yes.
She did it, like penis in hand, like that.
Yes, she did. Damn, I'll break the pictures out. We'll have to do that. I'll send you those.
You know what? You don't need to send me the pictures of the penis being pierced. I'm good. You know, I'm kind of good on that. But yeah, it definitely harkens back, you know, to this great era. And you sent me a couple of pictures of a, you know, because we were talking about how, you know, that era when like print and magazines were such a big part of, you know, the whole thing. There was no internet, so you know you'd go and you go to like the was it the bookstore back then? No, yeah.
The newsstand, the bookstore. I was such a magazine. I loved, you know, all the different magazines and like.
Well, these are yours that you sent me, right?
Yeah, these are all actually. I just freshly have been bagging and storing a bunch of my old magazines and all these great era of like obscure magazines and obviously the big ones like Rolling Stone and Spin and you know, but there's one from the US Festival, which we know you were there commentating for.
I was at the US Festival, all three shows of the US Festival in 1983. I was there.
That's it. That was the Cream magazine reporting from there, you know, and
you know what they say? I think that the deal was like Van Halen got paid $1 million.
I think they got paid a little bit more than Bowie. They wanted to be the highest paid band on the bill.
So they got $1 million. And I was there, and I will say this: they earned every penny, man. Van Halen was great in 1983 at the US Festival. They were worth $1 million back then. Yeah, they were fantastic. It was also the last show that the Clash played with Mick Jones. I saw that.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, but these are like you know, you look at these. Look how young Tim was, for God's sake.
Mm-hmm.
But I have so many, and I was just kind of grabbing certain covers, you know, and you had these obscure like magazines that you don't even like that like didn't even last a year or two, you know, and I saved. I'm the accumulator, you know. I have a library of them, and
that is my superpower. I am the accumulator.
The cool thing is finding people we know, and like all these years later, like. You know, you did this interview with the Ray Gun magazine or whatever, like, and just great. You know, people ate that up, and now all of a sudden, there's almost no. I mean, you could still find magazines, but the European ones are great, but they're like $20 each.
All magazines are like,
Yeah.
once in a while I'll be like checking out somewhere and I'll be like, oh, that's cool. Like, Time magazine, Grateful Dead retrospective. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I like that. And I look at it, I'm like, $25. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
something that it's still, let me tell you, it's still a magazine. I'm still going to read it once and throw it in the back of the car, So a story Lou says, when I worked at EMI, the best trade mags were Billboard, CMJ, Hard Report, Hits, and Album Network. Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
I found some of those Hard Reports, actually. It's the I love them. I just love them all. I mean, I liked all the different magazines, and today I like Classic Rock and Mojo. Those are the two that I still pay attention to. But again, they're $15 each, something.
By the way, Larry Kelly says, get her, meaning Jen from the Genitorturers, on the show. You know what?
That's not a bad idea.
Why don't we go one step further? Let's get her on the show, and let's pierce some penis.
Are we gonna flip? We gonna flip a coin?
Pierce some penises while we're at it.
Take volunteers from the chat room.
Hey, Chris Contos from the Forbidden. What's up, brother? Hope you're well, man. Yep, there you go. All right. Well, there you have it. More shall be revealed.
That's right. This is going to be a good one.
Okay. At ease, soldier. I'll talk to you soon. There you have it. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Gearing up for a great one today. We are sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, The Organic Grill, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Generation Records, 126 Hardcore Clothing, Mad Vintage, and the Texas Silver Rush. They're a jewelry design firm and boutique store located in the birthplace of the Texas country music scene in Fredericksburg, Texas. They specialize in working with musicians in all music genres to design and create unique one-off pieces, as well as the style and for stage, album covers, promo photos, and social media exposure. Their client list includes Rock and Roll Hall of Famers Greg Rowley, Ringo Starr, and of course, Agnostic Front. Information and online sales are being taken at their Facebook and Instagram pages, and of course, www.texassilverrush.com. Let's clear the deck. Let's bring our guest on. Here we go. Everybody okay in the chat room? Everybody good? You're good. I'm good. No human sacrifice going on. Here we go. Today's guest is an American music executive and entrepreneur hailing from Long Island, New York. He has spent the majority of his career marketing and branding musical acts, including Metallica, Ozzy Osbourne, Linkin Park, Biohazard, and many, 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 many others. For over 40 years, he's been the main force behind Concrete Marketing, and in the 1990s was behind the legendary Foundations Forum conventions, which took place in Los Angeles. Please welcome, coming at us from Nashville, Tennessee, our old friend, Mr. Bob Chiappardi. Hey, man.
Drew Stone, how are you, brother?
I'm good, buddy. Nice to see you.
Great to see you, sir.
Good. How's things in Nashville?
A little gloomy, but not bad. I can't complain.
What? And we're going to skip around a bit. We're going to go where the horse leads us today.
Okay.
But how'd you end up in Nashville? I know you're, I know you're like a northeast kind of guy.
I was a Woody Allen, nowhere else in the world to live, New Yorker for, again, my 97% of my life.
Sure.
Moved out here like 3 years ago. I planned on moving out before the pandemic, but I moved out during the pandemic, and I love it. It's great. It's much easier. A man of my age, it's much easier living in New York. Although I love the Big Apple.
Yeah, it's an easier lifestyle. I get that. Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, again, no bash to New York or LA, but it's much more of a musical town. Yeah. And there's just as much heavy metal and hard rock out here as there is in New York. I mean, like, I live like 3 miles from Dave Mustaine. You got like so many rockers around here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's interesting because a place like Nashville, that makes a lot of sense. Or Memphis even, still really, really, really vibrant music towns where sort of like New York and LA are pretty regimented at this point. You know, it's just, you know. That said, how did you come up? Did you grow up in a musical household? How did music come into your life?
I guess not super musical. I mean, my dad was a Italian family, so my dad was listening to Frank Sinatra and Steve and Edie and all those Jerry Vale. That was what kind of that, and then the Beatles.
And this was in Long Island, right? You grew up in Long Island?
Yeah, grew up in Long Island. The Beatles did it, and then the Monkees, and I was pretty much a music nut after that. So, midnight, having my AM radio, transistor, little transistor radio, listen to WABC, Cousin Brucey, listen to the, the stuff back then. Yeah, great.
And I mean, you talk about AM and Cousin Brucey, and then of course, there was sort of the FM radio explosion, and
right.
and the tri-state area was an incredibly vibrant place for FM
Amazing.
back then, right?
NEW, WLIR. WLIR was my station. It was like just so much amazing music and so many different great promotions. I mean, they used to do this one promotion out of a recording studio, and I got to see Peter Frampton. I mean, sitting on a floor with 20 other people, 5 feet from the guy as he.
Interesting. You should bring up Peter Frampton, because I was just, for some reason, I think because they just did some sort of Frampton Comes Alive re-release, and part of Frampton Comes Alive was recorded at the Comac Arena in Long Island.
There you go. Yeah.
I was like, what?
And he's another Nashville transplant. He's also living out here now.
Who's out playing again? He said he was done, but that's cool. It's glad that he's out there doing it again. Ray Hogan asks, first hard rock you heard?
First hard rock I heard, probably Steppenwolf. I would think. I think that was probably my first. Which some credit with the term heavy metal, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, they were like a big Long Island band.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Them Blue Cheer,
Blue Cheer, right? Another one there.
Mountain.
Yeah. Some great bands out of Long Island.
What was the first live music that you went out and saw, like as a young person?
The first rock show I saw was Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Wow. Brain Salad Surgery Tour at Madison Square Garden. Wow. And it was like they had a quadraphonic sound going. It was right before Christmas, and for the encore, they brought out a 100-piece choir. They stuck them on stage, and then Greg Lake starts singing Silent Night, and then when it gets to the chorus, the lights lit up, and there's a 100-piece choir singing Holy Night. Like insane. Keith Emerson doing piano flips, Carl Palmer just like doing amazing drum solos. Yeah, it was heaven.
Back when bands like Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Deep Purple, bands like that, were like, and Led Zeppelin were the biggest things on the planet.
Exactly.
I mean, those bands, people sort of the shifting sands of time. People don't realize it. There was a time where Deep Purple, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Jethro Tull, even these bands were huge, mega bands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Multiple arena nights.
Yeah. Great stuff. So you have a love for music. How did you were in high school, and I have a quote, if I may quote.
Sure.
When I was in junior high school, I had a history teacher who convinced me that the smartest thing I could do was to study business in college and go to law school to become a corporate lawyer. So I headed down that path. Give us a little. How did? Give us a before. Yeah, set the table.
So that was I idolized this teacher. She was amazing. She was a major mentor to me, and she said that was the way to go. So that's that was a good suggestion, and I went with it. So I wound up going to Fordham University in the Bronx, and I majored in business, and I took up management and marketing. That was was a double major. And got to the third year in college and started taking some pre-law courses, and realized after a couple of courses that I did not want to be in law. I could not deal with all the minutia of dealing with contracts and the mountains and mountains of reading through crap and, one word meaning, changing the meaning of everything. And so there I was, about to get a degree in management and marketing. I thought to myself, what would I want to manage or market? And the only thing I really felt that passionate about was music. So I started delving down that path, looking for avenues to get into the music industry. I went to my guidance counselor, and I asked him, if he had any suggestions, and he goes, "Yeah, that's easy. You want to get in the music industry? Get a good co-connection." Yeah, this is what you tell what do you call it, an 18-year-old kid, right? Who's trying
and what are we talking, like 76, 77, 78?
It was like 77. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he said, but actually I got something here that you might be interested in. And he pulled out this flyer he had gotten from Warner Communications, and they were doing a executive management training course. And what they would do, they were pulling four college student graduates and placing them in each of the four divisions of Warner Communications. So you had Atlantic Records, you had Elektra, you had Warner Brothers, and you had WEA, the distribution company.
Sure. And
they would put you in. They would take the four, and they would rotate the four members. They had done it the year before. They were doing it again, and rotate them around. And at the end of the year, they would place everyone to one of those companies. Right.
Right.
So I jumped on it. I literally had like a week to get all my stuff together. I went to Warner's, and the last day it was due, I slipped it under the door. And I get a call like a week or so later, and the VP of HR called me, because, normally I would not even bother looking at this, because you literally put it in the last day, the last minute. All right. And he goes, but you made such a great presentation that I had to meet you. And what I had done is I had taken a photo of myself. I had a photo of myself, and I recreated a ad I saw in Billboard magazine from one of their own ads, and I duplicated it and I made it a pitch for me. So she got turned on by that. And
that's great.
So I did a couple interviews, got down to out of, I think she said there were 800 or so applicants. We got down to the final 10, and we were all going to get to interview with Steve Ross, who was the head of Warner Communications.
Right.
And just as that was about to happen, Black Friday, and the whole industry went into a downward spiral. That was with the 4 Kiss records and Tusk. Remember where they shipped platinum and returned double platinum?
Well, yeah. Let's take let's plant the flag here. Yeah, for those wondering, yeah, sure. Kiss, Neil Bogart at Casablanca. Based on the incredible success of Kiss, they do 4 solo albums. Right? They release them all at the same time, and they ship them platinum. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but back then you could ship platinum and then say the record went platinum, right?
Technically, yeah. And Neil Bogart had a real interesting deal with Polygram, who was the distributor at the time, which a lot of people don't realize. He had a deal where he got paid on records shipped.
Oh wow!
He didn't get paid on albums sold.
Holy shit!
So a buddy of mine was working with Polygram at the time, and during that era, and he says, I remember we shipped a tractor trailer of Kiss records to Walmart. They backed it up, and then a month later they picked up the truck, and they hadn't even broken the seal on the truck.
Wow!
They hadn't even opened it.
Wow.
So yeah, it was like,
and then the other record being Fleetwood Mac Tusk, which was hot on the heels of Fleetwood Mac rumors,
Right.
and they basically hedged all their bets on Tusk, which I believe was a double record, right?
Double record.
Yeah, they hedged all their bets on that being his biggest rumor.
And their lead single was, with the, what do you call it, the UCLA marching band,
Yeah.
which was like,
Yeah.
there you go.
So which brings us back to the story. So right, Black Friday.
So then, they scrapped the whole program because they were laying off people. They weren't going to be hiring people.
Sure.
And I wound up working in the, what do you call it, getting a temp job. So I was working in the, for the same lady, but I was a temp. So every morning I would go in, I would sit in this little room and wait for a bullpen, and somebody from one of the companies in the Warner building. It could be the book division, it could be the record division, it could be anything.
Right.
And they would, I would go down and I would work the day, and next day maybe be back or maybe not. And
it sounds to me like there's an inherent value in that, though. It's like for a young person to you know, as opposed to I'm doing the same kind of thing every day. For a young person, I think it sounds great to me.
It was interesting. I mean, again, I spent a good amount of time working for the movies. I was a runner, and I would, back in then you couldn't you couldn't send stuff by email or whatever. So if you needed a print, I would go on the subway with like big metal cans, those big metal reels of film to bring to a screening or something like that. So
that's great.
And then while I was running around messaging, I found that Arista Records was looking for someone in the mailroom, and I registered and I applied for that, and I got that job, and that's how I got into the music industry.
And so you go over to Arista, which is correct me if I'm wrong, but basically the house that Clive built, right?
It is. It's Clive's baby.
Yeah.
The
house that Clive Davis built. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I was there for about 3 months and realized that I didn't want to work for a record label, and we didn't want to work for anybody. I realized I wanted to work for myself, so I started just doing my own thing after hours. There was a gentleman, Steve Sussman, good guy, still in contact with him. He ran the West Coast division. And when I say ran the division, he was the only guy. He was a one man guy.
West Coast may help you.
Yes, exactly. For the publishing, Arista Publishing, and he had this huge box in his office full of cassette tapes. All right, unsolicited people trying to get publishing deals. And one day I just said to him, I said, "Are you going to listen to those things?" He goes, "No." I go, "You mind if I listen to them?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, if I hear anything, I'll bring it to you, and blah blah blah. So I would bring him stuff that I thought was good, and he didn't like any of it. And I said, "Well, do you mind if I contact these people? But you're not interested?" He goes, "Yeah, knock yourself out." So then I started cutting deals with these kids, these writers, and said,
did you create your own sort of music publishing company?
Yeah, Gorilla Music.
Gorilla, not Gorilla. Gorilla.
Go-Rilla, and I named it after, what was his name? It was Congo, who was the gorilla in the Central Park Zoo. On the nice days, I would go to, because again, it was only 2 blocks away from Arista. I would walk up there and to have lunch, and I would sit across from Congo, and he'd be sitting there, and he was a real character. You would see like kids like teasing him, and he would like just stare at him, and then eventually, if we got annoyed, he would go over, he'd pick up a pile of his shit and walk over to the thing, and all the kids would disperse. Then he'd just drop it and just sit down and start like literally chuckling. It was hysterical.
Right.
So we had a little bond, and I said, Congo, I'm going to start a publishing company, and if I make it, I'm going to spring you. And unfortunately, Congo passed on before I got successful.
So as part of would you what was the business plan? Was it, hey, I have a little publishing company, sign with my little publishing company, and I will attempt and I will solicit your songs to other artists? Was that
Exactly.
the same? Okay.
And I told him, I said, you sign it to me for a year. If I can't get you something within a year, I'll send it back to you. So it was a 1-year deal. It was no risk to anybody. And
not a bad deal.
Yeah, we wound up doing that, and from there, people I started working with started asking me to manage them.
Okay.
And that's how the management starts up. And
was there any what was the first group you started managing?
Was actually a friend from high school. He had heard that and he came in, and a band called Sore Thumb, which was a Long Island band that was playing the original scene. They played the right track
what was the name?
Sore Thumb was the name of the band.
Sore Thumb.
Sore Thumb. They were big
Wow.
Bad Thing fans, so they what do you call it? They named themselves after that.
Wow, you pulled the right track in card. Ooh.
There you go, right track in.
Yeah.
And then I got Dean Friedman. Dean Friedman came to the office, and he dropped off a new album of his. And I was a fan of his back in the day, so I called him up, and then I wound up working with him. And then Percy Jones,
right,
who was bass player for Brand X. Brand X was a prog rock band, mostly instrumental.
With Phil Collins played drums. They were a prog rock band. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, so I started managing Percy's band, which was called Stone Tiger, and it had Dougie Bound from the Lounge Lizards on drums.
Wow.
And Bill Frisell on guitar, who was like an amazing jazz guitarist. Bill wound up leaving the band, and we got a new guitar player named Vernon Reed.
Wow. He must have been a young man, huh?
He was a young man. That had to have been like 81, 82.
Wow.
And we did a couple of demos.
Ray Hogan says Percy is a master bassist.
Master. He was the Jocko of the UK. That's what he was known as.
Okay.
And what do you call it? Walter O'Brien. All right, and as the story now develops,
there we go.
Walter O'Brien used to tour manage Brand X and knew Percy Jones.
I see.
All right, and someone who worked at Arista introduced me to Walter.
And Walter was at Important Records?
He's at Important Records. And so I called Walter trying to get him to sign Percy, and he wanted to. He wanted to sign the band. He went to his boss, and his boss wouldn't let him sign the band. And there'd been a number of bands that Walter wanted to sign, including Grim Reaper, who his boss wouldn't let him sign. So he finally said, you know what? I give up. You're like tying my hands. You're not letting me do my thing. So he quit. So when he quit, I said, do you want to join up with me? And we'll manage Percy together. And we did that. And then we get a call.
And was this called Concrete Management?
It wasn't Concrete at that point. At this point, we were still working on the guerrilla music.
Okay.
And then we get a call from Wendy Goldstein, who what happened when Walter had to pass on the band. He sent it to Wendy Goldstein at RCA, and Wendy signed the band.
Right.
And so when she heard that Walter was out of a gig, all right, she called Walter up and said, "Well, I need a tour manager for their first U.S. tour."
Sure.
So at that point, I was partnered with Walter. So we went on tour with Grim Reaper with the design to, once we got to know each other, hopefully sign into our management company. And once we signed Grim Reaper, that's when we decided to change the name.
Is now that you're mentioning Walter being over at Important, and he formed Relativity Records, right?
Right.
He was I'm just assuming that some of those guys, like I think Joe Satriani was on Relativity. Was Walter? Now that there's a Walter connection, was Walter somehow involved in signing Satriani to Relativity?
I'm not sure if he was. I'm not sure if he was involved with signing at that point.
Right.
He had put out a Cookie Puss which was the first
The Beastie
45
Boys rap
Beastie
tape.
Boys. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he put out that, and then he also started Combat. All right, so Combat was started under the same guys, being the metal division.
Right.
And that's what he wanted. He wanted to do Grim Reaper under Combat.
I see.
And I don't know if he signed the first Megadeth record. I don't know if he did that. I could be wrong there, but.
So yes, Super Strike 9. Yeah, Combat was an awesome label, and I think those sort of three labels that you associate, Combat, In Effect, and Relativity. They were all under the same roof out there. I think
Right.
in Hollis, Queens, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. Well, here was the interesting thing, and the reason that the what do you call it, the Walter wasn't given a lot of budget and opportunity to do stuff, because at the time, Important Records was making 95% of their income by importing records.
That's right.
All right. And what they would do is Peter Gabriel would release a record over in the UK like a week before. They would get it in and then sell it to the record stores, although like the real hip record stores, and and sell real quick the first week before it came out on the US, right?
Yeah.
This version. So after this kept happening more and more and more, the record labels finally got together and they forced a legislation about parallel imports, and that killed their business. And that's when that's when Important started really digging into doing developing the labels. But that was after Walter left.
I remember those days when import, something would come over here real quick,
Right.
and you'd buy it, and then soon after there'd be like a U.S. release or
Exactly.
something like that. So they got hip to that. So you guys sort of rebrand as Concrete Management.
Right. So then I remember we were in I still maintained a little office in Arista. I was doing this after hours. All right.
Right.
And
was your day job? Were you still going to? Was Arista still your day job?
yeah, it's still my day job.
That's cool.
And I remember he came in and was, well, we need a name for the new company. He reached up, he grabbed a Yellow Pages.
Right.
He started flipping through it, and he goes, "Stick your finger in there somewhere." And so I put it in, and when I put it in, you open up the page, and it was construction concrete was like the headings at the top. It was concrete. We said, the concrete, it's all, it's solid, it's all over the streets, it's great. I mean, that's when we opted for concrete marketing management.
That's great. At this point, did you guys, obviously, and I quote, during the New Music Seminar in 1984, we distributed around 200 flyers advertising Concrete and its services. And by the end of the first day, we were approached by Rick Davis. Am I pronouncing that right?
Rick Davis, yeah.
Rick Davis, then vice president of marketing at Chrysalis Records. And we were hired to work the first full-length Armored Saint record.
Yeah. So Grim Reaper had finished their tour. They went back to England and they started working on the next record. Well, that was the only band we had that was making money.
That was the only one we had in our stable.
That's the only band that was really making money.
Sure.
So we had to figure something else out. Now, we had gone on the road, right, with the band, and when we were out on the road, this is what would happen. The band would play this set, they dry down, and then they would go out to the bus because we had to get to the next gig.
Sure.
And there'd be a crowd of kids wanting to meet the band at the bus.
Yep.
And we start talking to the kids and this is that. And we talk to some guy. He goes, "Yeah, I work at the record store down the block. I love the record and blah, 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 blah." I go, "Oh, great." And he goes, "You need anything?" And he would say, "Well, yeah, I got some posters, but they were used as stuffing in the box to in the shipments." And that's what retail, because metal wasn't popular back then. So they would take the posters, instead of using them to hang up, they would use it as stuffing.
Wow.
For packing material, right? So we take down his name. Don't worry, we'll call RCA. We'll get you some posters. And we talked to another guy, and he worked over at the radio station, right? The local radio station, and he ran the metal show. that went on at 1 o'clock, like Fingers did in Long Island, right? And we'd say, oh, you're playing the record. He goes, well, yeah, but I had to go buy it. I go, well, didn't you get a promo copy? And he goes, yeah, well, but the what do you call it? The program director's kid is really into metal. So when the metal stuff comes in, being we don't normally play it, he'll just bring them home to his kid. So if there's something that isn't like super popular, I got to go out and buy it. So I said, well, give me your number and we'll take care of you in the future, blah, blah, blah. If you need anything, let us know. And now we're collecting all these names and all the
and let me just interject. And of course, back then, it's not cell phones and stuff like that. It's you're literally compiling a Rolodex, kids.
Exactly. So there was no internet. So that was the whole thing, and that's what concrete marketing wound up becoming. Is that the connectivity that now is the internet. So we got back after the tour. We had no way of making money. So we said we had all these names and all these connections. We said, well, why don't we start marketing and offering to other labels now that we've got all these names? And we made up the flyer. We went to the new music seminar. We're handing the stuff out. I ran it to Rick Davis. I gave him a flyer. And he says, you know what? I got this new Armored Saint record. I'm never going to get it on the radio. I have no idea what to do with it. I'll give you $500 a week to just do whatever you can do.
Wow.
But Peter mentioned and Cliff Bernstein will be up my ass, and at least I could say I'm doing something.
Wow.
And that was our first thing. And then once we did that, Johnny Z heard about it, and Walter knew Johnny Z, and he goes, the new Metallica record's coming out. I got the first record. I want to piggyback on that. So you work the Kill 'Em All record for me. And we wound up doing that. So that was the second record that we worked at Concrete.
Wow. So first was Armored Saint, and the second one was Kill 'Em All.
Yeah.
What did working a record entail back then in the embryonic days?
What we would do is we would call record stores all over the country,
right,
and ask them if they had it in stock. Ask them how it was selling. Just kind of pump it up. Ask them if they needed a play copy. If the band was on tour, we see if we could set up an in-store, that type of thing. So we were supplying information. We were supplying, taking information in. We were supplying play copies, POP material, which are posters and those 1x1 flats that you would see.
Yeah.
And that was it. And generating reports and doing that. And as we grew, we do more research. And Howie Gabriel over at what was now, Relativity now, he gave us a list of stores, and we get a call. Who the hell we get a call from? And my attitude, whenever someone asks me a question, especially when you're a new company, you just say yes, and then you figure it out.
Of course.
So I got a call from one of the record labels, and they say, listen, can you influence Billboard reports? And I said, yeah, sure, not a problem. Hung up, and I turned to Walter. I said, do you know what Billboard reports are?
Right.
So we called Howie Gabriel, and he goes, yeah, there's all these Billboard reporters around the country, and what they do is they call in their numbers, but it's nothing technical, nothing electrical. They would call in, just give we sold 50 copies of this, 1,000 copies of that, whatever, and that's how they would make the Billboard charts. But what would wind up happening is, label guys would call up and say, how many did I sell of my number one priority? Well, you really didn't sell any. Well, look, I need you to report it as the number 10 record this week, right, even though it's the number 75 record, because we're trying to make, and you would pump the charts.
Right.
And so then we learned how to do that. And next thing you know, we're getting called to do that type of work. Sure. And that was kind of interesting and fun.
Well, I think it's fair to say that in a lot of ways, there was no real, being that this genre was so new, there wasn't a real roadmap. I mean, to a lot of it, you had to sort of improvise and figure it out as you went, right?
Yeah, and also everyone has to understand it at the time, and you could say almost for always, except for probably in the 80s, the heavy metal, and for that matter of fact, country, were redhead stepchilds in the music industry.
Yeah.
Both genres sold a lot of music, but no one really cared about it. Here's a perfect example. All right. So we're working the AC/DC record. All right. Blow Up Your Video. All right. the record is #1 at all the stores, #1, #2, right? At almost all the stores. Meanwhile, Atlantic is telling them to, well, we know it's going to be #1 this week, and next week it's going to drop really low, and so we don't really care about that. So we got this new alternative band that we got that we're pushing. So let's switch things. So now, but Atlantic had hired us to go and work the AC/DC record.
Right.
So I'm calling out, where did the AC/DC record come in? Oh, #1, but they want to report it at #7. And I go, well, no, fuck it. I mean, it's AC/DC. It deserves #1. So AC/DC, that was the only time, I think until probably recently, that AC/DC had a #1 record. That was because we were on it. And Atlantic was so pissed at me. And I said, well, look, if you told me not to, I would have not to, but you hired me to do that. So I did my job.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Yeah, that makes sense. So things start rolling along. Were you guys managing bands too back then?
Yeah, well, we picked up more bands. We picked up who did we pick up? My God, we had my memory.
This is all the stuff I'm thinking about came later.
There was,
Pantera and all that came much later.
Pantera came later. It was for the first record, but we were well established at that point, because then people were calling up to asking us to manage records, right? I remember getting a call from Tom Wally, and he says, I got this band I want you to manage. And I thought it was a different band than it was his mind, right? So he calls me, and I fly out to LA. I sit down with them, meeting for the first time.
Right.
And I talk out, and he goes, I'm so glad you're going, yeah, I want to definitely, man. And I thought he was talking about Crowded House, and he thought I was talking about Poison, which made more sense that I read into Poison, right?
Sure,
it was the first Poison record.
Right.
And he told me Poison. I said, yeah, I don't want to manage those guys. So, so it was interesting. But I'm trying to think, who did we have? We had another.
Who am I thinking? It wasn't.
It was like a Johnny Z band, or
a Johnny Z band, a Megaforce band.
Megaforce band. I'm thinking.
Okay.
Oh yes. Oh God. Not Anthrax.
Megaforce bands, quick. Here comes.
Not Anthrax. Not Exodus.
Hold on.
Testament. Testament.
Oh, yeah. Here they come through on the chat room. Overkill? No. Testament.
Oh, maybe it was Overkill. It might have been Overkill. Yes, it was Overkill. Thank you. Yes.
Right.
There you
Good
go.
one, Paulie. Yeah. So basically, no, not Cities, Ray.
Yes, we did Cities. We did do Cities. Yes, very good. Cities was actually before. No, it was after Grim Reaper. Yes, it was the next band after Grim Reaper. They had AJ Perro in the band, who had just left.
Twisted Sister. Yeah. So that said, so you have a marketing arm, you have a management arm, and the both of you are moving forward. And at the time, heavy and hard music is, dare I say, becoming somewhat mainstream. Was there like a watershed moment, like a big breakthrough moment? Was that sort of,
I really can't say there was a breakthrough moment. You talking for metal or for the company?
Well, no, I'm talking about metal. When like I know Alago signed, Metallica to Elektra. I know that was kind of a big moment. Was there like a oh wow, we're turning a corner here with this genre of music?
I think it was to me the biggest thing was MTV.
Yeah.
So once MTV kicked in and they started playing, the hard rock videos, the hair metal stuff, more so than the heavy metal stuff.
Right.
Headbangers Ball would play the heaviest stuff, but the Poisons, the Cinderellas, all that, the Wingers, all that stuff would get played on mainstream
right.
MTV. So that's what really, and I think that carried everything, so
Yeah,
that carried
sure.
even the heaviest stuff with it. Because metal and hard rock got a real bright light shown on it.
Yeah, like you said, the Motley Crues, the Cinderella, the Poison,
Exactly.
and then you had the big breakthroughs with the things like Extreme, More Than Words, and these sort of the ballads, and lest we forget
was it.
Guns N' Roses. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Guns N' Roses was another one. We worked the Live Like a Suicide. So that was an interesting thing. So you had Live Like a Suicide, which got picked up by Geffen.
Right.
But they wanted to establish street credibility for not that they, they had the street credibility in LA, but around the country they wanted to establish it. So what they did was they printed up a bunch of records, right? I don't know, like 30,000 records, and then they sold it to Relativity.
Right.
And they put it under the Uzi Suicide logo because they didn't want to have it under a real corporate, Geffen logo.
Yeah.
And they actually hired an independent record distributor, Relativity, to distribute for them. And then they hired us to work it. And we gave away 100,000 of these little mini flexi discs. I don't know if you remember those.
Yeah, of course.
Those with like a thin sheet of plastic.
Yeah.
Or
plexi discs, they put them in fanzines or
exactly.
Sometimes you get them in the back of a magazine or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we made it. They made up like 100,000, and we gave like 500 to every store.
Wow.
That what do you call it to give away, and then we just flooded the market with these things. And I had a picture. There was black and white picture of the band, and then a clear flexi disc, glued to it, and then on the back was all the information about Guns N' Roses.
Wow.
But a lot of people fail to forget that the band wasn't like an instant success.
No.
It took a year before they got the breakthrough, with the ballad.
Yeah. It reminds me it sort of reminds me of later on, being that I was, affiliated with the Biohazard camp when Biohazard signed to Warner Brothers Records and then put out the independent record on Roadrunner. We did the videos for early on, and they sort of established that groundwork before putting out the major label record.
Exactly.
Same kind of thing. So, Concrete, here's a shot I have. I guess this is from this is the Concrete holiday card. And at this point it's obvious you've got and photo credit Mark Weiss. You guys have a pretty healthy staff kind of pretty early on, huh?
Yeah, we started off, there was 3 of us in the beginning. So it was Walter, up above me with the hat there, and then next to him was Tom Kelty, and that was like the original 3. And then we brought in Ed Javaruski, who was underneath Tommy, and then we kind of grew from there.
Yeah.
That was actually the back of a flexi disc we did. And you can see all the names down there, or all the artists we got to do Christmas wishes. So hi,
Ozzy, Easy. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I got hi, this is Ozzy Osbourne, wishing you a Merry Christmas from my Bible.
This was all on the flexi disc?
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
This is actually a flexi disc.
Oh, that's great. That's Easy O, of course. Free White Lion, Grim Reaper, Armored Saint, Alice Cooper, Lizzie Borden, Sacred Reich, and Metal Church. Wow. Yeah. All our old friends. That's
our old friends. Those are all our clients at the time.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And another thing that I'm assuming, in the spirit of what we were just talking about, was the foundation's sort of report magazine that you started. That in a way, like, hey, let's create our own chart, and let's create was that the kind of the concept here?
Well, the concept was that, again, going back to at the time when we first started, back in '84 is when we first started, heavy metal was still being treated like a redheaded stepchild. And, no, not trying to be negative or anything like that on that, but
it's okay.
Politically incorrect, I guess. I don't know. But nevertheless, here we are. There's the new music seminar and they would have, I think they had 4 days of panels, and we had one panel for heavy metal. Meanwhile, they would have 20 panels a day for 4 or 5 days, and we had one panel. CMJ, another 3-4 day convention, and there were 3 panels for that.
Right.
So all the trade publications, I saw in your list over there, you mentioned you mentioned in the beginning, the Billboard and Album Network and Friday Morning Quarterback, they all had a section of heavy metal. Usually it was 2 or 3 pages, at best. So we said, you know what, metal deserves more. So instead of having just a page or a section, we should have our own magazine. So we started the magazine. We thought the same way with the convention. And the heavy metal deserved their own convention. So instead of having one day dedicated, let's have 3 days with 3 days of panels. So we would have at least a dozen panels a day. So we had 30 panels over the course of a 3-day week.
Yeah. So, and we're going to get to the foundation's forum stuff. But yeah, so the magazine comes out. It's just it's sort of part of the whole thing, and then
it started off, just to give you an idea. It started off as we printed it on a Xerox machine.
Right.
It was literally 1 page to start.
Yeah, and I actually have a memory of the early version was like a couple of Xerox pages stapled together, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And it just then, what do you call it? The next thing you know, people wanted to put advertising in it. We started selling advertising, and then once we started making money, we put all the money back into the magazine, and it wound up being a full color 40-page magazine.
Yeah, and how long did that last for?
I want to say 20 years.
Wow. Nice run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not 20, somewhere between 15 and 20 years for sure.
Yeah. And
we did it every 2 weeks. We did it
every 2 weeks for all those years. It's pretty incredible. Now, I want to get to I want to talk about the foundation's forum, which was such an incredible blast. I need to take a sponsor break, but before that, you and Walter were still at this point. You guys were still partners, right?
Still partners, yes.
Yeah, and that goes on for a while, and then we'll get to the point when you guys split. But let me take a quick sponsor break. It'll be a couple minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll continue. We'll talk about Foundation's forum and a couple other things. Okay.
Cool.
All right. There you have it. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Our guest today is Bob Chiappardi, and we're taking a nice walk down memory lane, talking about how some of the music was marketed. It was a vibrant, exciting time. Let's do a little sponsor stuff, and we'll come back and we will continue on our journey.
Since 1992, Generation Records has been a mainstay of the New York metropolitan area music scene. Today, they offer a diverse selection of new and used rock, jazz, indie, hip-hop, punk, hardcore, metal, blues, soundtrack, and reggae LPs, as well as t-shirts, posters, and other merchandise. They buy used record collections and music memorabilia and will pay you top dollar for them. House calls made for large collections in the tri-state area. Call or email generationrecords@gmail.com and follow them on Facebook and Instagram.
Will that be cash or in debt?
Do you mean debit?
Yes. Sorry. Another eternally satisfied customer.
Hey guys, Vlad from Organic Grill. As you can see, we're in new location on West 3rd Street, right by Blue Note and Comedy Central. The place is bigger, kitchen is bigger, we have more varieties, more food. We are looking forward to treat you guys with great dishes. All Hardcore Chronicles, welcome to to Organic Grill. We are going to serve all the events as we usually do, and we are happy to see you guys.
Peace, what it do? Welcome to NYHC Comics at 117 Main Street, Dobbs, Surrey, New York. I'm Debo the Pro with my homie
Lee Farley.
Welcome to the spot. Specializing in yesterday's and today's comic books, rare CGCs, toys, collectibles.
Got skateboards, old school tapes, Magic the Gathering, Warhammer.
Video games, original art pieces by your favorite New York City and worldwide artists. Let's go. Skate decks all day, baby.
We also have the young reader section here for like 10 and under. The Pops. People love the Pops.
Star Wars! We are New York hardcore. We always rep the scene. Let's get it on.
And we're back. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Edit once again. Having a great show. Hope you guys are enjoying this on the other end. Let's talk about what's coming up. 1 week from today, Cliff from the Freeze will be on. Old school Boston Hardcore represent. A very outspoken guy. This should be very interesting. I go way back with this guy. John Connolly from Nuclear Assault will be on Sunday, April 14th, co-hosted. Speaking of Hollis, Queens, and Relativity in Effect, co-hosted by our old friend Howie Abrams. New music show, Wednesday, April 24th. We're going to announce, we're going to march a whole bunch of people through. We're going to talk about new music, new art, stuff like that. Sal and Dan from Electric Frankenstein on April 28th. Sal from Typo Negative, Life of Agony, A Pale Horse Named Death, and King of the Locusts on Sunday, May 5th. Our old friend Peter Spira, musician, filmmaker, and author, will be on the show Sunday, May 12th. Just announced this the other day. Another member, former member of Minor Threat coming on the show, Steve Hansgen, who played on Out of Step, will be on. He was also in Government Issue and the great band Second Wind. That is Sunday, May 19th. Chris Enriquez, May 29th, who just joined Orange New Leader. And this hasn't been announced yet. You hear it here first. Sunday, June 9th, Jack Rabbit. Yes, old school New York hardcore represent. He was in the band Even Worse. And then, of course, he's the publisher and editor behind the big takeover fanzine, later magazine. So that's happening. For those wondering, how can you support the show? I know you just say, how the fuck can I support this great show? I got you. There's a Patreon page right there. Join Patreon, exclusive content, a bunch of other stuff. You get the book for free. If there's any patrons out there who have not got the new book yet, if you are a patron, it is free for you. If it's free, it is for me. So, hey, join Patreon, be a patron. There's a PayPal address there. This show is supported by your contributions. That's what enables us to keep going after 4 years. And we thank you. It is an awesome book. Hey, if anybody is not a patron, let's say you're living under the radar. Let's say you're on the lam. You're part of a drug cartel. You can buy the book. It is available at www.stonefilmsnyc.com. It is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Volume 2, 1990 to 1999, a flyer oral history. Come on now if you don't have it. The first book is sold out, so don't waste your breath on that. I think that covers pretty much everything. Hey, Lee Bundy, how you doing, buddy? Hey, what's happening, Hegs? Is it your birthday today? Happy birthday, Hegs. Hey, listen, Danny, being that you're in the chat room, I'll mention this. This Friday in New York City, guess who's coming to town to talk about his multiple book releases? Generation Records, Danny Marianino will be in town from Northside Kings, author. This this Friday, April 5th at 6:30 p.m. at Generation Records. Come on down, have a cannoli. I will be there. This should be a good time. So come on down. That said, let's clear the deck and let's bring our guest back on, Mr. Bob Chiappardi. Hey, man.
Hey, brother.
Good. So the Foundations Forum, I want to start with this a little bit because this one's pretty great, and we ran that promo in the beginning, and just so happens Mary Elizabeth Carter says, I remember the Foundations out in California with Motley Crue, Seven Dust. The label I worked for had bands hanging out, getting wasted in my room. Next thing you know, I have every indie band, radio station, and label wasted and puking. It was fantastic. I was 19 and straight edge. My boss was proud of me. I thought I was getting fired. I think I got a promotion and then split to work on commercial radio full time. Thanks, Bob. That was wild.
That's great. I love that. Oh, I love these stories. I mean, we have stories of people getting married from meeting at the Foundations Forum. We got stories. I got guys will send me tattoos, pictures of tattoos that they got at Foundations Forum with Foundations logos. It's great. It's wonderful.
What was the impetus to start the and for those that this might be somewhat new, and I quote, 1988 to 1997 Foundations Forum, and I quote, the way heavy metal was growing, we wanted to be careful not to have it blow out. By sitting down and talking about the genre, the good and bad points, having the indies interacting with the majors, it makes for a healthy industry in general. Set the table a little bit. What was the impetus to sort of starting the first one, and what did that look like?
Well, like I said before, I mean, every convention that was out there only gave minimal attention to heavy metal,
right?
And we wound up going to a Mets game with Lon Friend from RIP,
sure,
and what do you call it, Brian Slagle from
Metal Blade.
And the three of us went out. I had tickets. I'm pretty sure I'm the one who had tickets. I remember having season tickets to the Mets for a number of years. And I believe that, what do you call it? I invited them to go out, and they were both in town.
Sure.
And we're sitting on the subway platform waiting for the E train or whatever took us out there. And we just started talking in general about conventions, and we kind of decided that there should be a heavy metal convention. And originally we were going to do it all together, and we started off doing that, but it's very hard to coordinate something like that with three leaders, going in different directions.
Sure.
So I just called them up. I said, look, do you guys mind if I just take the lead? And I remember having Brian, we gave him everything free that year, and I remember coordinating with Lon to have the final day of the convention align with his RIP party, so they would be kind of like almost together, like that one that night, and that's what we did, and it worked out amazingly better than expected. We brought in Janie Hoffman to help put it together. She introduced me to Kevin Lyman to do all the production.
Sure. And what was the first? Did you go big right out of the gate? Was it in Burbank? Was it in the hotel? What was it?
No, it was in Universal City. And we got the idea pretty late because it was the summer at that point, and we wanted to do it in the fall. So we found the I forget what it was because the hotels change names all the time. The Universal Marriott, maybe it was a Universal Marriott, that was like right below where the Universal Park is on the way up that hill.
Sure.
And they had some space for us. It was limited, and so we figured that we had room for 500 people. We were
Right.
hoping to get like 250. We wound up getting 1,000.
Wow.
So it was a huge success the first year.
What was this? This was 1988.
Yep, this is 1988, and
A vibrant year for heavy and hard music for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was like it was really challenging the first year because we were, like I said, we were part of the hotel activities.
I see.
So there was this poor bride. Poor
man.
She had a wedding reception at the hotel.
Right.
And meanwhile, there's all these heavy metal guys walking around going, "Hey, baby, hey, I fucked her last night, hey."
Oh.
the poor thing. Oh my God.
Well, I attended a couple of foundations. Was out there. Did a couple of them, and I think things just got ratcheted up every year. Like it just got to the point. Like it just got to be a free for all. I remember people were just. The bar, the lobby and the bar, the bar and the lobby, it was just, people were just, because what happened after a couple of years is you had like record company people there, plying their artists with alcohol, and the artists were like, yeah, well, fuck that. That's the record label. We're gonna take that guy from the record, his credit card. We're just gonna bang that out. So
yeah.
it just became it was a blast.
It was amazing. It was a blast, and it thank God it grew really fast so that we were able to take over hotels.
Yeah,
and then it was just us. So being with just us, then it made it a lot easier. But it was like for years. I mean, for the first, I want to say we did it for 10 years. I think for the first 7 years, we did it at the same hotel twice. The first 2 years, and then we would jump from hotel to hotel. And the reason we would jump was because the morning after it was over, I'd go down to the general manager's office, and then we would square everything out.
Right.
And they would say, "Bob, we made a lot of money off you, but we don't want you back next year."
Oh.
And I was like, "What's wrong?" I go, "First of all, your attendees scare the hell out of our crew, so." The crew would be there the first day, and then the next day they would all call in sick because they didn't want to deal with it, So it was just a lot of and we were very dirty in the sense of just messy. All right, so spilling drinks on the carpet and heavy smoking, and guys would be like leaned up against the wall, and their boot heels would scrape against the
I also
walls.
remember people like openly smoking grass, like smoking reefer, like nobody gave a frick,
No, but it was like there wasn't a lot of destruction. It wasn't like a destruction on purpose. It was not like it was not a that type of thing. I think the only real major destruction we had was from. Oh God!
Infectious Grooves. I remember the
Infectious
green.
Grooves. Yeah, they had the Jello.
They had the green. Infectious Grooves had a promo item that it was like that green goo, and the green goo ended up everywhere, including in the carpet of the that was messy.
And what was the Metal Blade band? Guar.
Oh, Guar, yeah.
So you got this fake blood all over the place.
Yeah.
So that was the only. Those are the only real damage nights that ever happened, and it wasn't done on purpose.
What I remember about a lot of them is you had some really fantastic keynote speakers. Could you tell us about like a couple, that might still resonate with you all these years later?
Well, you had in the film footage in the beginning, you had Rob Halford, who gave his speech right after they were acquitted from that big trial, where they were brought up on
beyond the realms of death, right? That whole
thing,
the kids
right
stuff. Yeah,
exactly. So and it was literally a day after. They got thrown out of court. We had him. We had Gene Simmons. That was the second year. We had Lemmy one year, who actually filled in at the very last minute like literally 3 days before the convention, what do you call it? Ted Nugent was supposed to speak.
Oh.
He bailed on me, and Lemmy stepped up. You know,
Really?
did an amazing job.
Lemmy to the rescue.
Lemmy to the rescue. He was a fixture. I mean, he was a fixture, you know, in LA and in Hollywood and
him I remember.
Rainbow, but
yeah, for sure.
But he was at every one of the convention, and every year he would interview with MTV, Headbangers Ball, because Headbangers Ball would do a whole show, 3 hours worth, like not live from, but you know, taped at our foundation's forum.
And we should make mention here of somebody who was incredibly supportive of all that, and also with Biohazard. And I remember he was just a fabulous guy. Was Ricky Rackman?
Oh, Ricky was the best. He was amazing. He actually his band played the foundations one year as well. Yeah, Lemmy would interview every year. Every year he goes, "Oh yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit. You know, it's a convention. I don't know why I bother coming. Blah, blah. And every year, and he'd be there every year with the same thing. But he was a great support. He was a great supporter of the company. He was a great supporter of.
I actually, now that you mention it, I remember one year when Motorhead had a record out, and this is sort of like when they were on the rebound in a big way. And I remember like a big theme of that particular year was sort of the new Motorhead record, and like those guys were there and getting a big push. And it was when they were coming back with sort of this like new lineup, you know, with with Wurzel and Phil Campbell, and it was great.
Great stuff.
You know, another thing that that I remember, you know, a lot of the performances that you have in the ballroom, a lot of great performances, and I think '91 was a real kind of banner year because this ended up coming out. So I want to bring somebody on who I'm pretty close with, who we worked. You know, what can I say? It's my brother, Evan.
There he is. That's a great surprise. Good one, Drew. Good one.
You got it on VHS. You got it on VHS. Oh,
there you go.
I got it. Still in its plastic. I think there was stickers in there somewhere, but it's gone. And this is good stuff here. You know, Bob, I'd like to thank you. You were one of the first people to really start my career. You know, you gave me a shot.
You did a great job, brother.
Yeah. I directed the live, well, not only the tape, but the awards ceremony not in 1991. And I think I was 23 or something. And we all didn't know how to do it. Award show. Let me tell you that, because it was oh my god, it was. We did it. We did it, and I see now some clips on the air. It's funny. I have a you know, this stuff is so old. It doesn't look good. Well, there's this AI app I used to up-res stuff, and it looks really good now. So
really,
you know,
oh, you gotta share that with me, man, dude.
It's called Topaz. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I was thinking about with some highlights there. Well, it was nuts. It was nuts, but it was fun. I think we all were like in the same world of like just loving it. I remember Phil Alsamo, a couple of highlights, because I did all 3 days. I was there from the beginning to the end filming. My cameraman got into a car accident that morning, and then he got wrapped up in Temple of the Dog performance. In the guitar rapping and strings. I remember he was rolling around and he still was shooting Dave Sharples. I remember Phil Alsamo super drunk and interviewing him. And he said to me, I said, "What's your favorite band right now?" He says, "This new band just came out, Nirvana." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Who are they?" You know, but he's the first one I ever heard that name, Nirvana.
Wow.
I remember I met two girls one night there, and that was fun. It was fun. And then
it was fun. It was a lot of work, no sleep, but you know, it was great.
And then
go ahead, Ed. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Then I edited the whole tape, multiple. I remember, you know, how many bands weren't on this tape, and if you remember them mention it, it was like, wow, you know.
Temple of the Dog didn't make it on.
Wow.
Who else didn't make it on?
I don't think
Alice in Chains. Didn't make it on.
Didn't Pantera, right?
Did Pantera play that? Pantera played the year before. I remember they played that year. I don't think they played that year. They were also,
well, if you look at with appearances,
Ozzy wasn't on it. Ozzy didn't make it on.
That's right. And Soundgarden, I think, were they on?
Soundgarden's on it because it was on because we released it through A&M Records, which was Soundgarden's label.
Right. Now, if we had the dailies, the original dailies on all that old stuff, it'd be good. But it was awesome. I still, I just did a new reel recently, and I was using some of this stuff because I was asked, like, what bands have you worked with? And I was like, really? Let's see. And it's like, it's like so many, but where do you find the footage, right? So nowadays you can and upres it. So I'll send you that reel. It's really cool.
That's great.
Hey, Bob, was this was 91? Was 91 sort of like the pinnacle or the high watermark of the?
That was our biggest convention. Yeah, that was the high watermark. Yeah. That was just when metal was still riding high, and the Seattle scene was bursting. That was really coming of age. So it all hit at once. We were supposed to, another band was supposed to be on there that didn't play was Pearl Jam. Then they were scheduled to perform, and then they canceled because they had to film the Jeremy video.
Oh wow!
So
what a time for music! What a time for music videos! What a time for you were right on the cusp. You had your marketing. You were on the pulse. I remember everyone needed to be with your company. Just starting.
The big thing about what I tell everybody was what made us so important was that there was no internet. So we were the conduit. So the magazines were in touch with us, the radio, the metal radio stations, those shows, all the independent labels, the major labels. So we were like in between the fan and the labels and all those places. And our mailroom guys, we would send out more information because, again, you couldn't press a button on your computer and distribute links and all this type of stuff that would give you instantaneous. We had to send out photos. You had to send out play copies. Sal, who ran our mailroom, was amazing, but we were sending out probably 30,000 pieces of mail a week, 50,000 pieces of mail a week, easy. Just the Concrete Corner alone that we had, which was a display in 350 record stores around the country. You figure any given month there was, on the average, probably 10 different projects. So 10 different new releases. So a new Pearl Jam record, a new Megadeth record, whatever. Everything in the hard rock category. And there were 250 stores. So that was 350 play copies, CDs, 350 more than that. Like we sent out 4 posters and 8 flats, so each one got that. Everyone got CDs. Originally cassettes. We give them 100 cassettes of samplers of all songs from each of the bands on the program. So think of all that stuff that went out on a monthly basis. Then the magazine that went out on a bi-weekly basis, and then just every project we were working with. We had our mailing lists were literally. We had 1,200 on our retail lists. We had 500 on our radio list. We had 800 on our reviewers magazine list. So these are all the people that would get things on a regular basis on every record that we worked.
Yeah,
you really started. You were ahead of the curve nowadays with social media marketing. All that stuff is all built from kind of like what you've done in the past. It seems. Yeah, it's cool.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it was interesting. We actually got into the whole internet stuff. Very early, too early on. That none of the labels were hiring anybody to do that stuff. So it was like we had that for probably 2 years, and we weren't even we're losing money on it. So I just had to bail on it.
Yeah, like
what's a year later, and then everyone started doing it a year later. But yeah.
All right, Ev. Hey.
All right, thanks. Hey,
dude,
Bob.
So good seeing you, man.
Yeah,
thanks,
man. And I'd love to do. Me and my brother would love to do something with you still.
I would love to talk to you guys about doing some fun stuff.
We're definitely better than we were 30.
Speak for yourself.
That's
All
great.
right,
I love you. I'll
cheers.
talk to you later.
Love you too, man.
Take care,
Cheers.
man.
Bye.
That was great.
Yeah.
Good one.
All right. Good. Another thing that I want to talk about a little bit is a project that that I ended up working on with you a bit, and that was the Nativity in Black Black
yeah.
Sabbath tribute record, which
Yeah.
was really had a buzz when it came out. It really did. It was a really great record, exciting record. Paris Mayhew and myself, we did the leadoff music video from the record, the Biohazard song "After Forever," and then me and my brother did the EPK, which I recently found. Could you give us some perspective on this release, which must have been a lot of work to put together?
It was a lot of work. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I had gotten approached by Columbia Records to do. I mean, I had at that point I had 30 people working for me. We had a record company, only we didn't have any records. We worked everybody else's record. So Columbia, intelligently enough, said, "Why don't you start a record label?"
I got this picture. Hold on, not to interrupt, but this seems like
Yeah, that was our crew.
I'm looking, and this, at first I was like, is this the staff, and then I realized it's the Flatiron building in the background. I'm like, yeah, it's near the office. This is the staff.
Yeah, that was our office over on the left there. Yeah,
that's a lot of people.
Yeah, it was a lot of people, a lot of mouths to feed. So Columbia said, "Why don't we do a record label together?" And I said, "Great." I said, but I don't want to have it be Concrete Records. I just want to put out records through you guys. I want it to be Columbia. So when your sales guys get a record, they're not saying, "Oh, this is some other label." No, it's a Columbia record.
Sure.
So I'm sitting there thinking, what should I release? Who's the sign? What to release? And someone who worked for me said, "Why don't you start off strong? Why don't you gather up all the clients you work with and put out a tribute record to Black Sabbath?" And it was like, you know what? That is a brilliant idea. I got to admit, it wasn't mine. And I just dug in, and everybody, like I said, we worked with everybody. Not only we work with everybody, we're friends with everybody. We hung out together. It was like a big metal family. And when I called folks up to do this, it was no real problem.
This record really holds up. Because recently I came across the EPK. I have a copy of the EPK, and I came across, and you're in it, and all the interviews that me and my brother.
Send me a version. I don't know if I still have that. I'm trying to remember.
Oh yeah.
So you gotta.
There's a lot of Black Sabbath music in it.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but it's great. And it was sort of a time capsule for me because I haven't seen it in many years. We interviewed Pete Steele. We interviewed, Evan and Danny from Biohazard. We interviewed Bruce Dickinson. It was like, I was like, holy shit! We went to like White Zombie's rehearsal room in Burbank and interviewed them. And it's all in the EPK. It's kind of great, but this record really holds up. It's really great, and some of the like the Bullring Brummies, which was basically Halford, singing for Sabbath, is fantastic.
Here's the thing. At the time, Ozzy and Sabbath were not talking to each other. Right. And so how do I get Black Sabbath on the record when there's not Black Sabbath to be had at the time? All right. Right. So what I did was I just had, Ozzy sing with a different backup band, and I had the rest of Sabbath, perform without Ozzy.
That's great. Did you go? Was there other records that you did like sort of with this, like after this?
Yeah, there was another kind of a jam band record we put out. And again, my brain is going.
Give me a clue.
Oh God.
Jam band, as in
They very hippie jam band
Spin
type of.
Doctors, like
No. It was one and done. It basically failed.
like
It was a wonderful record. I love the record. But
Jellyfish, something like that.
no.
Hmm.
I'm sorry. I'm losing. I feel bad, but I'm
All right.
losing.
Well, if you remember, if you're any details, we
Yeah.
have a whole world of audience to ask, and someone knows.
Yeah.
This is a question from 666. Nativity in Black 2 is also great. How did that end up on priority? Did you have anything to do with that, or did they sort of license it?
No. Then Sharon started her own label.
Ah.
And that's why it went through priority. And then so Sharon called me up and said, "You want to do a volume 2?" I go, "Yeah, let's do it." And we wound up doing it together. But it was on Sharon's label.
I got it. That makes sense.
And then we called up Michael. I called up Michael Kaluta, who did the artwork for the first record.
Right.
Who was an amazing, illustrator. And we went through the whole concept, the whole tarot card concept we developed together.
It was great. Really
so
great.
every song had its own tarot card.
Yep.
And then the images of the first album, the second album was again the demon child, like a Nativity in Black, kind of the demi Christ, whatever you want to, was now maturing. He's now a teenager. So you had in the first album a baby, and the second album you could see his image as a teenager.
Got it.
So it was kind of a nice theme.
Another project that that you were involved in, and I think you invited us down to the filming and to the filming of this thing, and we went down, if I remember, to the LA Forum. Was this?
Oh yeah,
right. We came down to the LA Forum. I think I was me and Evan Seinfeld, me and some of the Biohazard guys, and you were involved with this Rockstar film,
right?
Which had an incredible amount of promise at the time. It seemed because it really seemed like it was, in a way, it was like the Ripper Owens story. The Ripper Owens story.
It was. That's what it was.
Yeah. Could you tell us this? In a lot of ways, this was a fantastic film. Could you give us some backstory on it?
Yeah. So the movie was based on the Ripper Owens story of Judas Priest hiring a new lead singer to replace Rob Halford from a Judas Priest cover band.
Sure.
And that's what the story is basically taken from. And when they were filming it, they knew they had it would make sense for them to get to the heavy metal music market. And so they hired us to do marketing on it.
Mm-hmm.
So when it came time I was already involved in the project on the marketing side. And when it came time to film the live sequences at the LA Forum,
right?
The director and everybody got together and they were deciding, well, we could do it 3 ways. We could hire actors to fill the forum, all right, paid actors.
Yeah.
We can hire some actors and then fill it in with CGI, right, and just have it all be digital.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Or we can actually throw a concert.
Right.
And Bud Carr, who was doing the music, said, "I got an idea. Let's get Bob to throw a concert for us." So they called me up, and I called Kevin Lyman, and together we put together this concert. And I told him I would do it, and I said, there's one caveat. I go, I want to sell tickets, make them real cheap. They were like $5 tickets, $10 tickets.
Mm-hmm.
I go, but I want all the money that we raised to go to TJ Martell.
That's right. I remember that. That's right.
Right?
Yep.
And they said, great, no problem. And that's what we did. So we hooked up with the local radio stations. What was the metal station at the time? Oh God.
In LA?
Yeah, it was outside LA. It was a small state. Oh my God. It was a great metal station. Kanak.
Right.
And hooked up with them and hooked up with the major stations there. And we hooked up with VH1 and Headbangers Ball, and we we did all these contests. We flew winners from VH1 out because they were tied in with the movie, and we made it so that we did a costume concert. So we asked everybody to dress in 80s garb, and the best costume won a prize. It was also we had also I think that was a really fun night. And from Poison, Ricky Rocket. What's
Ricky Rocket, the drummer.
Yeah, he hosted. I was working with Playboy at the time. I was making rock Playboy videos at the time. And we got Playmates involved, and they were giving taking photos and the money from that went to the TJ Martell Foundation. It was a 3-ring circus going on.
It was pretty great. And yes, Count Ralph says yes. That was Zach on guitar, and Jeff Pilson from Dokken was on bass, and Jason Bonham was playing drums, if I remember correctly.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was cool.
It was a killer night, and I tell you, it went on, and again, heavy metal crowds, man, they got stamina, and they stayed it was like we filmed for like 12 hours. Yeah. And so we would do a band, and then we shoot some film. But all those scenes, if you're familiar with the movie, you see when Mark Wahlberg falls down the stairs and all that, we shot that scene like 12 times and all sorts of things like that. And
this was pretty early on in his acting sort of career.
Yeah.
You know? So
I think this was one of his first leading roles, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, an old friend of mine, Scott Calvert, a music video director who directed Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, Good Vibrations, put him in the film that for his first acting role. He directed the film, the Jim Carroll film, The Basketball Diaries.
Oh, wow.
And he put Mark Wahlberg in kind of like his first acting role. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, pretty. Were you happy with the way the film came out?
Yeah, again, it came out great. I mean, again, it was a tragedy. Was that the tragedy was the event itself, but it affected the film. Was that the film was released Friday after 9/11.
Oh,
so it pretty much got lost in the sauce. I mean, to me, I remember these networks that show older movies. One of them. They call them modern classics, and they called it a modern classic, but
yeah,
captured the time. Captured the time.
Yeah, Eddie Medina up in Oakland, Powerhouse says cult classic, no doubt. Yeah, it was cool. It was a great one. Let me take a quick sponsor break, and we'll come back and let's take some questions from around the world. Okay?
Sure.
All right. There you go. It's the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. And we are sponsored by blah, 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 and Mad Vintage. Mad Vintage buys, sells, and collects band shirts, primarily hardcore. The DIY operation was started and is operated by a hardcore kid who just loves collecting and eventually got into vintage clothing, specifically the realm of vintage band shirts. They are always looking to buy out collections to either keep, sell, or trade. New shirts added daily at www.madvintage.com and posted on Instagram. Dig deep into that closet of crap. Reach out to them. Make some dough for yourself. Mad Vintage. Last but not least, 126 Hardcore Clothing. They're a streetwear brand for restless individuals who don't compromise. They're about being positive, spontaneous, and true to yourself. For years, they experimented with several printing methods and materials and collaborated with a large number of designers and illustrators, always giving room for fresh perspectives while retaining the hardcore attitude. Get in touch with them. Ramp up your game at www.126clothing.com. Want to mention a couple of events that are coming up. We already mentioned this one. This is happening on Friday here in La Ciudad de Nueva York. Danny Marianino is coming to town. We're going to be hanging out on Friday at Generation Records. This Sunday, I am hosting the Ray Capo From Punk to Monk book event at Generation Records. Come on through. Starts at 1:00 p.m. and will be done at 3 because he is playing with Shelter at the Bowery Ballroom along with Civ. Danny Diablo, his 420 party's coming up at what's the name of this place? At the Wood Shop in Queens. The 20th, I'm up at Bridge 9 Records doing the Ray Capo book event. Sunday, April 21st, all ages free Bowery matinee with Fahrenheit 451, Kings Never Die, Brick by Brick, the Car Bomb Parade, and Faded Line. It's free. It's all ages. Come on down. Benefit for Jesse Malin coming up on April 27th in Tompkins Square Park. Go-Go Bordello, Madball, Murphy's Law, The Capturers, and War Orphan. Come on. It's free. It's in our beloved Tompkins Square Park. Saturday, May 4th, art show at Bridge 9 Records with Laurie Dawn, Mike Gallo of Agnostic Front, and Christopher Michone. And then, of course, the Black and Blue Bowl is coming up 2 days. Day 1 is with Agnostic Front Slapshot and one of my favorites, Conservative Military Image. That is May 19th. Is that right? Do I get that right? May 18th, excuse me. First day is May 18th. Second day with Drain, Madball, and Terror. Second day is the 19th. And then, of course, Saturday, May 25th, in our beloved Tompkins Square Park, Rebelmatic, Incendiary Device, It's Going to Jump Off Tonight, Non-Residents, Cartel, and Redwoods. Rampage Fest 6 with Adrenaline OD, Upstairs, Downstairs, Sunday, June 2nd. That's not happening. The event with me in Paris and Nighthawk Cinema needs to be rescheduled. He's busy working on a feature film. Sunday, July 21st. It is the big one. It is Back to the New York Hardcore Roots 50th anniversary show. Can you believe it? Sworn Enemy, Incendiary Device, It's Going to Jump Off Tonight, Cropsey, Redwoods, and Foul Pride. It's all going down. First annual New York City Tattoo Convention, July 26th, 27th, and 28th. A bunch of bands playing. We're going to talk about that pretty soon. It's at Terminal 5. So get up, get out, make it happen. That said, I want to shout out. Hey, I want to remind also any questions for our guest. Now would be the time. Go deep, get weird, post them up. I want to thank everybody that has subscribed. There is a subscribe button right there. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the show so you get alerts. Please give the show a thumbs up as well. Also, on your communication device, please follow the show on Instagram at Stone Films NYC on Instagram. That said, post up your questions. Let's bring our guest back on, Mr. Bob Chiappardi. Hey, man.
Hey. Got a lot going on there, big guy.
It's great, man. I love it. I'm how can I complain? I don't even have to leave my house, man.
It's a beautiful thing.
Let's see. We got. You know what? I have a similar question. Paulie Pork Chops Vids kind of asks. Let me rephrase this a little bit. Are there any bands that got away that you tried to sign but didn't work out? I guess. Let me rephrase that a little bit. Is there anybody that you worked with in those halcyon days that you just felt really strongly about, and that they didn't make it to the promised land? Was there anybody that you just loved and that you just felt, man, these guys are gonna, and then for one reason or another, like, didn't make it there?
I know there is, and I'm trying to think back. I think that the human mind generally tends to take failures and push them to the back of the.
Yes, of course.
And when I say failures, I mean just that we're ahead of their time. Just didn't, timing is everything. And again, there's a million factors that go into a successful anything.
Sure.
And besides the creativity and the hard work, talent, luck, all this stuff factors in, and there are some artists that, I thought would never make it, and just, God shines his infinite light onto them for whatever reason, But yeah, there was definitely a few that got away that I thought would make it.
You mentioned a couple of the big ones that did make it, and I guess there were those moments where kind of all the stars aligned. Could you share maybe one of those that like stars lined up, band steps to the plate, a fastball comes in, swing of the bat, and it's an upper deck home run?
I mean, we worked with Winger, and Winger was like a right out of the box winner. I mean, again, it didn't, again, I'm still, see Kip. I mean, I was one of the executive producers on a TV show that we filmed here in Nashville, and I had Kip as a guest celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one that just right out of the box. I mean, that went gold from day of release. I mean, and especially a brand new band, day release. I mean, I think it was like 3 months later, it was gold.
They had a pedigree, that band, going into it, right?
They did, without a doubt.
They had a bit of a pedigree.
Yep.
Right. Rod Morgenstern was in that band, and
right.
and Kip was played with Alice Cooper, right?
Right. Kip, and also who else? One of the other players played in Alice's band as well.
Mm.
But yeah, there was a bit of a pedigree there. But that was one that started off strong. Trying to think of who else. Most of them were a bit of a grind. I mean,
Paul Gilbert? No, I don't think Paul Gilbert was in that band. No,
no, it wasn't Paul.
Yeah.
Oh God, I can't remember now.
Yeah. All right. A couple times, I know Kiss. Did you work with Kiss in that sort of era?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Gene was great. I have so many great Gene stories.
Yeah.
Gene story. Gene was a master, a total master.
Yeah. Any memories that you can impart about this guy?
Oh God, yeah, he was a sweetheart. That was taken. I'm pretty sure it was the same. I think it was the same year. It was the same year or a different year. That was taken at a.
I know where you're going with this, because I know he had the club in Dallas, right?
Right. So one of the services that my company provides is that we promote music to strip club DJs.
Right.
So we've got over 600 strip club DJs around the country that we service with new music. And it was a year that there's an organization, like every trade has a trade organization and a trade publication. So the trade publication for the strip club industry is called Exotic Dancer Magazine. And every year they do a convention, and they've been doing it for 30 years. And Vinny would to the convention. And at the end of the 3-day convention, they would do an award show. And they gave me one year. They gave me an award for Innovator of the Year for my strip clubs, my strip joints. What do you call it? Service. And Vinny presented me with the award. And somewhere out there, there's a photo of him presenting me with the award. But yeah, a lot of fun stuff with the guys. I mean, we managed those guys for a while. That was just before, managed them with Walter for about a year or two, and then Walter and I split. But Walter and I remained friends, and we actually still worked out.
We didn't touch on that, and I know it was an amicable split, so it's pretty safe to ask. What led to the split? How did you split? And like, how was it sort of like, how do you take this and I take that?
Well, it was kind of pretty easy because Walter was basically, it started off Walter and I both doing management. And then when the marketing company came in, we both, Walter took care of the technical side, like generating the reports and doing all that. I did, I oversaw all the collecting of the data and all the liaisoning with the record labels. But as the company grew, we needed more and more people. It wound up that I wound up overseeing the magazine, the convention, we had a thing called Retail Vision, which was we dispersed video, what do you call it, cassettes to
Retail Vision's is worth mentioning because they were like VHS compilations.
Right.
When music videos like ruled the day, you would get you'd get these, Retail Vision VHSs, and they would have like 15 videos on it, and it was pretty cool.
Right. It was all and we had different genres. So we had a Metal Vision, we had Alternative Vision for alternative music, we had Rap Vision.
Rap Vision. I remember Rap Vision. Yeah.
We had Hit Vision for hit music, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And there were some songs that transcended, a few different genres. But what people, back then, cable was not, there was not really there wasn't satellite, and cable was rare. So you would have a record store out in bumfuck Illinois,
sure,
and they, what do you call it? They're not getting MTV. They're not getting any, and they're not getting any of that stuff. So we kind of filled that niche. And what they would get, the bigger stores, they would get promo cassettes from the record labels, but the promos video cassettes would usually have one song on it. So it'd be like, okay, Poison releases a new song.
Right.
They spend $300,000 on the video, and then they would send these video cassettes out to the store. So great, so the store owner gets to see it. Maybe if a kid asks for, but you're not going to rewind this thing and play it over and over again. So what I had the concept of, what if I go to, I'm already dealing with all the labels. I get a Poison video from here, I get a Motley Crue video from there, I put them all together. Now the retailer, he puts it in the thing. He's got an hour and a half, 2 hours of video that that's rolling one after another, which filled in for what would later be MTV when they could get MTV.
Who paid for that? Was the retailer paying for that, or was that just
No,
something that was included?
Retail's got it. No, I charged the record labels. I think I charged them like $900 per video.
Sure.
So but for $900 and you have 15, 20 videos on you, is plenty of money to make the production and hire somebody to oversee everything. And it wound up being a nice business that lasted for a good 10, 15 years.
That makes sense. Let me ask you, what's going on here? Because in this picture here, I see one of my favorites in this picture here, and that would be Dr. John. What's going on here? What's?
So I also did a TV show. I was brought in to do talent for a TV show. It was a short-lived show on CBS called Love Monkey.
Mm-hmm.
And the premise of the show was, it was this A&R guy working at a big record label, and he's not able to sign the acts that he wants. So he quits and starts his own independent label. All right. And he's got, and it's his story. And it's kind of like a Sex in the City, only for guys. And he's got three buddies and their love life. That's what, and the whole premise of Love Monkey was, a female friend of his referred to him as a love monkey, just swinging from branch to branch of the love tree, not having serious relationships. Anyway, so every week they had a different musical guest star, and written into the what do you call it, the plot.
Sure.
And one week I got what do you call it, Mac to what do you call it, to be a big guest star. That was a fun episode.
That's cool. Good question, Eddie. You got a lot of gold platinum records. Which one are you most proud of?
Proud? The one I'm probably, ironically enough, I mean, different pride for different ones. I mean, yes, the big Metallica one over my shoulder there.
Yep.
That's very proud of that one.
Yep.
I've got Nirvana, Temple of the Dog, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, number of Iron Maidens and Korn, and they go, a ton of them. But the ones that probably Extreme was one I was really proud of, really close with those guys. Megadeth, my Megadeth one was close with Dave. My first one was first gold record was for Europe, The Final Countdown.
Wow.
So I gave that one to my parents. That's hanging up in their living room. But the one I'm probably most proud of was for Brittany Fox.
Oh. Okay.
because that was a record that maybe shouldn't have gone gold.
Right.
That was a real marketing work
Yeah,
project.
right. That was a real sleight of hand, right?
Yeah, that was a little bit more work. I mean, the great guys and some really fun music, but
Yeah.
I don't know. That was one that I was like, wow, that took a bit of magic.
Sure. Ray Hogan asks, when did you realize the seas were shifting in the world of hard rock?
Here's a funny story. I mean, I'll sidestep the question, and there's a funny story that Janie Lane
Yeah.
told at my convention one year. He said, and he was basically asked the same question, and he goes the second album after they broke, the band broke, and he was what do you call it? They had just finished Cherry Pie. He walked into Donnie Ienner's, Donnie Ienner was president of Columbia at the time,
Sure.
for a meeting, and he walked in, and there was this huge poster of Cherry Pie hanging behind him, right? And they had their meeting and all that, and he goes, and then the tide started to turn, and when he went in for his third record, he walked into Donnie's office, and there was a huge poster of Alice in Chains hanging behind him.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, once the Seattle bands once they had their first platinum, records, that's when everything really started to turn. And fortunately, we were all part of it. We were that was the nice thing about us. I mean, we were part of each changing scene. We started with the heavy metal, like the Grim Reaper, the Metal Church, that type of stuff in the very beginning. And as it grew into the hair bands, we were there for that. The Seattle scene, we were there for that. When you had the rap rock stuff, the Corns and the Limp Bizkits and all that stuff, we were there for that. The Linkin Parks, all that, when it got to even be more that alternative, and we were there for that. And that's when after that, that's when everything really, the hard rock really took a nosedive. And while we were in that doing great, rap was just creeping up, not slowly behind us, and eventually it just took over. And that was the flavor. I think rap is going to have the same situation, by the way. I mean, eventually I think the same thing will happen.
Is this an early shot of you, Walter, and Grim Reaper?
Yes.
Yeah, nice shot.
Yeah, that was.
People look young in these shots, man.
No, right? My God.
Yeah.
That was a very early one. That was at a show. That was it. That was definitely after a show. I think it was the beginning of the first tour.
Yeah. Anthony Green asks, why do you think Grim Reaper did not make it bigger than they were?
Wow.
They made it I mean, they did okay.
They did okay. They never had a gold record. I got to be honest with you. They never had a gold record.
Right.
Metal Church didn't have a gold record. Another band that again, there's a purpose to have two bands that I felt should have made it as well. Right. I mean, you're right. I mean, again, I don't know how I could have forgotten them, but both bands I thought should have done better than they did. Mm-hmm. Interesting, and they got a lot of, especially with Metal Church, they got a lot of breaks. I mean, in the sense that they got to tour with Metallica,
Yeah.
Here's an interesting.
They got signed to Elektra.
They were signed to Elektra. Michael Lago, same guy who we know very well.
Yep.
And here's an interesting story, kind of not fun, but just interesting. So Metal Church is about to go on tour with Metallica. Mm-hmm. They were finishing up a European leg, and then they were going to start in the States on the West Coast. So our agent had put together a string of 3 dates, warm-up dates in small clubs. One in San Diego, one at the I think one was in LA. I know one was in San Diego, but in the LA area. And then you had the tragedy with Cliff Burton.
Sure. Yep.
And I remember we were shooting a video when we heard the news. I was actually in Seattle with the band when we heard, and it was devastating. But then the next week, I get a call from next week or a few weeks later. I get a call from Cliff Bernstein, the manager of Metallica, and he goes, Bob, I got a favor. I said, Cliff, what do you need? He goes, you're doing. I see that Metal Church is doing some warm-up dates. I go, yeah, before we go out with the Metallica guys, with you guys. He goes, would you mind if Metallica opens up for Metal Church on those dates? And I said, sure. Why not? So they wanted to break in Jason. So they actually opened up for Metal Church for like 3 dates.
That's a great story. Can you give us any perspective on working with these guys?
Oh yeah, the Slayer guys, great. I love those guys.
And that's Rick. Is that Rick Sales in the picture?
No. That's Jeff. What do you call it? That's Jeff who worked at my office.
Oh, okay.
So we started working with Slayer. I'm trying to think. I think we did some stuff with Brian Slagle when they were on Metal Blade. I think we did some of that. But then we really dug in with them on the first release with Rick Rubin's label.
On Deaf American.
Deaf American, yeah. And Charlie Datry was the product manager, and they brought us in. We did a bunch of stuff with them. I remember we did a big display contest with retailers, and I've got these great autographed posters, not posters, but lithograph prints that we gave away as prizes for people that hung up displays. We did the was it Rain and Blood?
Later on.
Blood Pack. With the goo in it. The CD pack with the like kind of red blood type of substance. We did that with them.
Sure.
We did all sorts of fun promo stuff with those guys. But those guys are great guys.
I remember one year during the Foundation's forum, they had, I think, Divine Intervention. They had a new rec, and they had a big push, and it was great. I remember that Foundation's forum because they were getting a big push, and I really liked that record. That record was really good. It had a Gemini on it. It was really good.
And Evan was talking about Phil being drunk, but he was running around with Kerry. Him and Kerry were arm in arm, holding each other up that awards night, as I recall.
Sure. Yeah. Good. Oh, okay. Yeah. The Blood Pack was for Seasons in the Abyss. Okay.
There you go.
Well, there you go. Thanks, Muttley.
Thank you.
Yeah, I remember that. Scott Koenig had one of those. I was like, what is this? You know, like what the fuck? So look, we could pretty much, we could pretty much do a couple of episodes, Bob, and I thank you so much for coming on.
It was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun going down memory lane with you, brother.
It was really great. I gotta ask you, what's new? Do you want to give just touch on what we're talking about all this stuff, but what you're doing now, or anything we should keep an eye out for?
So we're still doing the strip joints as far as old stuff that we're still doing. We're still doing the strip joints. There's a couple bands I consult with that I help out as far as getting record deals, or like I said, just help Biohazard get a record deal. So we do things like that.
Yep.
Because I'm working on TV, and I'm also doing some documentaries. Actually, doing music supervising for that type of stuff. We did a TV show here, a new artist competition show called Banded. that aired on Access TV, and we're preparing season 2 as we speak. And then I've been doing a bunch of brokering catalog deals. So artist friends of mine, that we work with that want to sell their catalogs for big checks, like you see Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen have done. There's also room for smaller catalogs. We have buyers that are looking for that, and we represent folks for that. And then between the three and raising my 12-year-old son keeps me pretty busy.
Well, there you go. Well, thanks a lot, Bob. I really, really enjoyed it today.
Me too. It was a lot of fun. It was great to see you.
I'll talk to you soon, man. Have fun down there in Nashville.
Thank you, sir. Come down, visit. All right.
I will. Take care.
Good.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Another one in the books. Our old friend, Bob Chiappardi. Yes, Paulie, it was a great show. He was a fantastic, fantastic guest. Really enjoyed talking about this stuff. I had a feeling. I knew it was going to be a great show. Chris Contos, man, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. I see you got some Forbidden shows coming up, right? Good for you, man. Good for you. And everybody else. That's how you do it. That's right. We're in the business of knocking out great shows. Yes, Larry Kelly. That was cool. He's a good guy. Absolutely. And he put me and my brother on back in the day, so we're always appreciative. Is that right? You're playing shows with Biohazard? You're playing that big fest, right? That big crazy fest, and what? Is that in Europe, or is it they playing the Forbidden Fest? I don't remember. You let me know. That said, if you're wondering, the next show here is 1 week from today with Cliff from the Freeze. If you are in New York City, I will be at Danny's event at Generation Records on Friday, and I will be moderating the Ray Capo book event on Sunday. So get your shoes and socks on, kids. It's right around the corner. Phil Vasquez, and Muttley, I see that you're out there. We are going to be putting together a Castle Heights reunion show. We're going to do that. So with Phil and with Muttley from Billy Club Sandwich. So we're going to be putting that together pretty soon. So thanks a lot, everybody. I really appreciate the support. I love doing the show. It means the world that you're out there. Until then, do good things, and good things will come to you.